Okay, let's get into this. DMX. Everyone knows the voice, right? That gravelly sound,
Hmm.
the rhymes that were so intense, so spiritual sometimes.
Hmm.
He often put his struggles right out there. But there was this one time, a really rare moment of just deep honesty where he shared something huge about where his addiction really started.
Yeah, that's what we're diving into.
Exactly. This deep dive, it's all about getting to the roots of that lifelong battle he had and how that whole street life thing was so tangled up with his music, his art, his whole journey.
Right.
We're going to lean heavily on what he said, his own insights, especially this revolutionary idea he had that the addiction wasn't the main problem, it was a symptom.
Which really shifts the perspective.
Totally. So our mission here is basically to pull out the key stuff, the most important bits from sources like that interview he did with Talib Kweli
Yeah.
and an article looking at his street life, just to give you a shortcut to understanding the complex stuff that shaped DMX. You know, the music, the man, the legacy.
And what's so compelling, I think, is how DMX himself kind of flipped the script on the whole addiction narrative. He basically forces us to look past the obvious symptom, the drug use, and ask, okay, what's underneath all that?
Yeah, what's deeper? It really sets a different tone for how maybe we should think about addiction in general.
Hmm.
And what makes his story just incredibly painful, really, is how young it all started. He was just 14.
14, yeah.
And critically, it wasn't like he went looking for it. Our sources really detail this. Apparently, he was tricked into smoking a crack-laced blunt.
Tricked. Yeah, that word is important.
Right. And get this, it was by someone he trusted, someone he looked up to, even. The article says it was the same person who introduced him to hip-hop.
Wow. Okay, so the person who opened the door to his passion.
Yeah. Also opened the door to this lifelong struggle. I mean, that act of betrayal, it's specifically called out as the thing that kicked off his downward spiral of drug abuse.
That's just chilling, isn't it? You have to wonder, how does something like that, a betrayal that deep at that age,
Mm-hmm.
how does that not shape everything that follows?
Right.
It's not just, a sad anecdote. It feels like a foundational trauma, something that could echo for decades.
Hmm.
It really highlights how powerful those early experiences are for what happens later in life, for adult struggles.
Mm-hmm. But DMX didn't just, tell the origin story and leave it there. He offered something pretty profound, actually. A revelation about his own addiction that kind of reframes the whole thing.
Okay.
He said it point blank. Drugs were never a problem. Drugs were a symptom of a bigger problem, unequivocally.
A symptom. Okay, so what did he see as the bigger problem?
He traced it back to his childhood. He said it was about things I went through in my childhood where I just blocked it out, things he buried.
Right, stored away.
Yeah, and he added this really insightful thing. You never know when the things you stored away are going to come out and just fall all over the place, like a dam breaking.
And, hearing him say that,
Mm-hmm.
it lines up so powerfully with what we understand now from psychology, right? Things like the adverse childhood experiences, the ACE's research.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
That research draws a direct line, a really strong one, between early trauma and, well, all sorts of later issues, including substance abuse, DMX's own words, his lived experience. It just puts such a human face on those statistics,
It really does. It shows it's not just him, it's a pattern.
A tragic pattern, yeah.
And he didn't just identify the problem, he talked about finding a way forward. He realized, he said, I had to deal with the things that hurt me. He couldn't just keep blocking them out.
So, facing it head on.
Exactly. And he found healing, interestingly, in talking about your problems. He actually called that one of the bravest things you can do.
Which is, wow. Considering the environment he came from, the whole street mentality.
Totally the opposite, right? That whole idea that vulnerability is weakness, that nobody wants to hear that, like he said.
Yeah, exactly. So for him to pivot and say, no, talking about it, opening up, that's courage. That's really transformative thinking,
Mm-hmm.
especially coming from him.
It really is. It shows this incredible self-awareness and this desire to break that cycle of silence.
Mm-hmm. It speaks to recognizing the courage it takes, regardless of your background, to actually confront that pain
Mm-hmm.
instead of masking it.
He even talked about a specific moment, this internal feeling where he thought, okay, I need to open this door and start dealing with this shit right now before it comes out at the wrong time, and I just have a meltdown.
That specific phrasing,
Mm.
deal with this shit right now. It's so raw, so immediate. That's pretty incredible introspection.
Yeah. Especially given everything.
Absolutely. That awareness, that drive to confront it before the meltdown, it says a lot about his underlying strength, maybe a desire for peace, even while he was still struggling so much. Remarkable, really.
So, okay, we have this understanding now of the trauma, the insight, the struggle underneath. how did all that shape the DMX the world knew? The persona, the street life icon.
Well, that's the crucial link, isn't it?
Yeah. The sources, they paint a picture of a really rough childhood, marked by abuse and instability. So the streets, they weren't just a backdrop, they were a huge
A
influence.
refuge, almost.
Yeah.
Or maybe just reality.
Could be. They offered apparently an endless supply of weed, alcohol, and several pit bulls, things that became, part of his whole image and sound.
Right, iconic elements.
And his music was full of depictions of violence, poverty, and drug use. It was reflecting what he knew, what he lived.
He had run-ins with the law pretty early, too, didn't he?
Yeah, the sources mention that. At 16, his first prison stint was for stealing a dog from a junkyard. Kind of classic DMX image, almost.
No way, yeah.
Then at 18, it was more serious carjacking. And while he was inside for that, he apparently was caught stealing drugs from other inmates.
So those experiences, that reality, it wasn't separate from his art. It was his art in many ways.
Exactly. It wasn't just background noise, it was the fuel. He actually called himself blessed with a curse. He felt his trauma was what inspired the music, that confessional output of his rhymes, like he was bleeding onto the track.
And that's key, I think. The street life wasn't just some persona he put on. It seems like it was deeply, deeply woven into who he was, his identity, his art. It was his lived reality.
Yeah.
And that reality shaped that incredibly powerful, unique voice he had in hip-hop. That blend of, the struggle, the addiction, but also the faith, the search for redemption. It was all mixed together.
Raw and confessional, like you said. Almost like public therapy.
Yeah, almost. Which makes the ending even more tragic, really.
Right. Because despite all that self-awareness, that insight we talked about, the sources suggest he still struggled, that he downplayed his mental health and substance abuse issues for years.
Prioritizing the music, maybe.
Conscious.
Caught in the cycle.
Maybe both. It's like he could see the problem with crystal clarity, describe it perfectly, but maybe couldn't fully escape those patterns that were set so early on,
Mm-hmm. That shadow of the street life, the trauma that came with it, it seems like it really did haunt him.
Yeah.
Right to the very end.
Yeah. The sources basically say that negative impact, that influence from his younger days, it sadly stayed with him, ultimately leading to his death from an overdose.
Such a tragic outcome for someone who understood his own pain so deeply.
Yeah. Ultimately, I think DMX's journey, it's a really poignant, stark look at how deep those personal wounds can go, how they can shape an entire life, an entire artistic legacy.
Definitely.
And also how incredibly brave it is to even try to confront them head on, even if it's a battle you fight your whole life.
In his own words, that idea of addiction as a symptom, that's a powerful takeaway. It really urges us, maybe challenges us, to think about the deeper pain that's often hiding beneath the surface.
Yeah, look beyond the obvious.
Exactly. Look beyond the visible symptom. Try to see the hidden struggle that so many people might be carrying, often silently.
So maybe something for you, the listener, to think about as you reflect on DMX's powerful, complicated story. Consider this. If we, as a society, really started viewing addiction less as, say, a moral failing or just a crime, and more fundamentally as a symptom of unaddressed pain, of trauma, how might that really, truly change the way we approach supporting people, supporting communities that are grappling with substance abuse?